Welcome back, all the Lees. In the shimmering world of the 60s folk rock scene, few voices were as iconic as Michelle Phillips of the Mamas and the Papas. In the 60s, the band was making waves and topping every chart, but then everything came to a halt in 1966 when Michelle Phillips was fired from the band by her own husband, John Phillips. The published reason was her affair with Gene Clark, but was there any other hidden truth about her being fired from the band? And why wasn't her solo career as successful after the Mamas and the Papas disbanded in 1971, even with all her talent? Today we're diving into her story, the highs, the lows, and the truths behind her sudden firing from the band by her own husband. You see, Michelle Phillips wasn't born into fame or fortune. She was born on June 4, 1944 in Long Beach, California, to Joyce Leon, an accountant from Canada, and Gardner Burnett Gilliam, a San Diego Mariner. The young Michelle, then named Holly Michelle Gilliam, had a big sister, Russell Ann, and a somewhat happy family until tragedy struck early. At the tender age of 5, Michelle lost her mother to a brain hemorrhage, a cruel twist compounded by the after effects of her mother's childhood illness. Can you imagine being so young only to lose the very heart of your family? Michelle's father tried to keep it together, but life would never be the same. He decided to move the family away from the painful memories, beginning a journey that would set Michelle on an entirely unexpected path. First, they headed to Buffalo, New York, but after 9 months, her father uprooted them again to California. Finally, the family settled in Mexico for 6 years. It was here, surrounded by a new culture and language, that Michelle found strength, adapting to her surroundings and even using the experience to cope with her mother's passing. In her words, she had to draw strength from her life's twists and turns. Eventually, the family returned to the U.S., and Michelle entered her teenage years in Los Angeles, a time of rebellion if there ever was one. She hopped from school to school, famously skipping classes and even getting expelled from Marshall High School after she was caught forging absence notes. Her father had to transfer her to Eagle Rock High School. Looking back, perhaps it was destiny, nudging her toward a different path. At 17, she started modeling and began hanging out at places where she'd bump into musicians and artists. One night in a club in San Francisco, she met someone who would change her life forever, John Phillips. John Phillips wasn't just any musician. He was already an established artist with the Journeymen. Despite being married, he was captivated by Michelle. Their chemistry was undeniable, and before long, John left his first wife, tying the knot with Michelle on December 31, 1962. But love didn't pay the bills. Times were tough and they struggled financially, bouncing from place to place and picking up odd jobs just to get by. Yet, through it all, music was their constant founder, their shared passion, the one thing that kept them going. Together, they dreamed of creating a new sound that would resonate with a generation, and that's exactly what they did. John, Michelle, Denny Doherty, and later Cass Elliot teamed up to form the Mamas and the Papas, a quartet unlike anything anyone had seen or heard before. Their harmonies and style were fresh, magnetic, and soon the world couldn't get enough. They started with California Dreaming and quickly became a cultural phenomenon. But behind the scenes, not everything was groovy. A web of relationships, heartbreaks, and betrayals began to shake the group to its core. Michelle was having an affair with Denny Doherty, who, ironically, Cass Elliot had feelings for. Though John knew about it, he was willing to overlook it for the sake of the band. However, cracks began to show and Michelle made a decision that would prove costly. She started a relationship with Gene Clark of the Byrds, and when this affair was discovered, John Phillips finally had enough. Furious, he gave the band an ultimatum: either Michelle was out or he was in. In 1966, with pressure mounting, John, Cass, and Denny made the fateful decision to fire Michelle, and Denny ousted from a band she helped create. Devastated Michelle, but part of her understood why it happened. Still, that didn't make it any easier. Later, she admitted she had to come back smiling and ready to start fresh, but it was clear she felt the sting deeply. Just months later, the group discovered that no substitute could capture the same spark Michelle brought, so they rehired her. In June 1967, she rejoined the band, performing at the legendary Pop Festival. If you thought that was the end of their troubles, it was just the beginning. The 60s were an era of experimentation, and the Mamas and the Papas weren't immune. Psychedelics and hard drugs became part of the scene, deeply affecting the group. John Phillips, in particular, sank deeper into addiction. Michelle later reflected, after the group got into drugs, it was a disaster. As their lives unraveled, Michelle's personal life took a new turn. In 1968, she became a mother to China Phillips, but motherhood couldn't save her marriage to John. In May 1969, after years of strain, Michelle and John filed for divorce, marking the end of their relationship. The group tried to keep going, releasing their final album People Like Us in 1971, but it was clear the magic had faded. The Mamas and the Papas disbanded, for good. With the Mamas and the Papas behind her, Michelle pivoted to a new chapter in acting. Like in her music career, she faced resistance at first. People weren't sure if a singer-turned-actress could make the jump, but Michelle, ever determined, proved them wrong. She starred in Dennis Hopper's The Last Movie, and later made waves with a role in Dillinger, gaining critical acclaim. In a later interview, she admitted the struggles she faced, saying, "When you're known as a singer, people aren't always accepting of you as an actress, but you have to show them that you can be believable." Michelle continued acting through the 80s and 90s, gaining recognition for roles in Knots Landing, numerous TV movies and series. She also released a solo album, Victim of Romance. Although it didn't achieve the fame she had with the Mamas and the Papas, Michelle's personal life also saw more challenges. Her partner of 18 years, Steven Zach, passed away, leaving a void that no career success could fill. She described the grief as deep and haunting, but once again found the strength to carry on. Today, Michelle Phillips stands as a testament to resilience. She's not only the last surviving member of the Mamas and the Papas, but also a survivor of an era that claimed so many. She's a witness to a turbulent time in history, and a woman who forged her own path through it all. Michelle's story is more than just about music and fame. It's a lesson in resilience, redemption, and the remarkable capacity we all have for change. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for more amazing content. See you next time.